Lovely to see you all. Erica.
Well, welcome everybody. Yes, lovely to see you all again. And so yes, might as well start with our usual check-in of just a word or so about how you are this evening, and then anything about that since we did our session last week on separate realities. Anything that's occurred to you, or anything about anything else for that matter, that's occurred to you, or a new insight or new perception that you've had over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it's a spring equinox, so I'm taking the opportunity to feel balanced. I'm going to take you in the order in which you're appearing on my screen. I think easiest thing to do. Judith.
Hi. Yeah, I've been busy painting, and I've finished that painting that I sent that was so kind of you to send out, Kim. I wasn't expecting that. It was quite lovely. And yeah, I think I'm tired. If there's a lot of tired people, then I'm one of them. I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Caroline.
Yeah, I'm curious and I am also tired, so interesting to that there are others tired. And I've just noticed a joy really in having conversations with people, exploring how they are feeling and seeing the situation, the crisis facing us, and yeah, so great.
Thank you. Gemma.
I was going to say about it being spring equinox as well, Erica, but it's also Happy International Day. So there we go. It's supposed to be Happy International Day for us all today. I had a day...
and Rewilding Day.
Yes, it is.
Rewilding Day. Oh, that's even better. I had a day with friends, so that was really nice. I'm working all weekend, so today was my day off instead of working the weekend. But yeah, rather like everyone else, I'm feeling very tuckered out. But it was lovely to get it was lovely to feel spring today. The sun was shining and it felt really lovely. So yeah, I felt very grateful.
Good.
Oh, and in terms of the homework, yeah, I guess watching Samantha Sweetwater, I think her name is that right? Samantha Sweetwater. Yeah, I found it really fascinating about what she was talking about, the things that cause society to be peaceful over time. I thought that was really fascinating. And the recognition of bringing different people's perspective in, and how when societies are able to do that, both from a cultural perspective and from a individual experience perspective, that there are the mechanisms that are really great to bring unity and diversity. And I thought that was really interesting. I found that really a good one to digest.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Michael.
Today started the next phase of my cancer treatment journey. So I my first radiotherapy. So I'm kind of, that's what my world is going to look like for the next 20 days. Lots of treatment. And but yeah, today it all felt very normal in many respects. So I'll see what's to come. This business of separate realities. I mean, when I think about separate realities, or how we all experiencing separate realities, I see it as an invitation just to get curious, really. It's as simple as that for me.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Joanne?
Yeah, just a lot of pain and feeling super zonked today, like in and out of consciousness. But yes, Separate realities, the way you see things, it was brought into sharp focus with a thing with my sister recently, and realizing how people have expectations and what's actually going on and the frustration that happens between, and I'm just, yeah, having to step back and yes, let things be. And yeah, not my monkey, not my circus, but appreciating and loving everybody, because I was starting to make someone into a bad guy. And then I thought, this isn't happening. It's not happening, anyone. Step back. So, yes, but it took work. I was kind of kicking myself that I didn't see it immediately, but there you go. Got there in the end.
Don't do that. There's a lot of wisdom there, Joanne. Brilliant that you got there. Well done.
Thank you.
James.
Feeling well tonight, pretty good. And I had an enlivening evening the other evening, which I feel is appropriate to share in the context of Finding the Others. Because I went to an Extinction Rebellion, my local group were doing a social, so I caught up with them. The social itself was nice enough, nice to see people I haven't seen for a while. I've been kind of out of touch with that group, but some guy showed up from another Exile local group from Melbourne, and I got chatting to him afterwards, and it was like sitting down with an old friend, just being on the same wavelength, and it was just so energizing. You know, I feel like a lot of the time there's this feeling of wandering in the desert, you know, trying to find the threads that I need to find. And I sort of I feel like I lose touch a little bit. But just to come across someone and then just have a really heartful conversation. And he shared things with me which are really encouraging. Like he pointed out that circular economies are popping up all over the UK and all over the world as well. So there's reason for hope, and we talked about art and things like that. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. It was really energizing, and it just goes to show that it's so important to find the others, and they're out there. So thank you.
Great. That's lovely to hear. Thank you, James. Wendy.
Hi, I'm feeling pleasantly tired because I've been outside all day. We didn't have sun. It's quite cloudy, but it was very nice and much warmer than it has been. I was even down to my t-shirt. And I'm finding people locally, just in my village, that I'm able to speak to now, which is, and I'm learning some things. I've met someone who's a psychotherapist and has got an awful lot to show me about how to tackle certain things. So I'm quite excited about that. And I'm exploring spirituality versus religion. And that's also very interesting, the people I'm meeting with that as well. That's me.
Brilliant, Wendy. That sounds very enlivening. That's fantastic news. Well done, thank you. Liz.
So I'm feeling pretty good, sort of rushed to get here, had a hair appointment, stuffed my supper down, and managed to get here just in time. So it's good to settle. And I'm very curious about what circular economy is. So I'm going to Google that after this. Thanks, James.
Thank you, Liz. Look, your hair's looking lovely. Jan.
I am unmuted. Unfortunately, I've got toothache, and I just cut my lip just before I came, which is why I was a little bit late. So I'm kind of not quite here yet. I'm really sorry. All right, I'll settle in over the time if that's okay.
Of course it is. And I'm sorry to hear about your tooth and lip. Look after yourself. Kim.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm good. I've had sort of half a day in the sunshine. It was sunshine here, doing things with vegetables in the garden. And that was absolutely lovely. And looking forward to this evening
which is all about courage and accepting uncertainty and telling the truth, telling your truth. There's so much the opposite of that all over the place at the moment. So yeah, how can we help each other to find the courage to accept uncertainty, to be open-eyed, and also to tell our truth? Yeah, excited.
Good. Thank you. And I hope your vegetables grow. And I know you don't mind feeding slugs, but it'd be nice to have some to feed yourself as well. So I'm going to start with a poem that you're very likely to have heard before, probably more than once. But I invite you to listen to it as if you're hearing it for the first time, and as if the words are being spoken to you personally. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of the universe, and your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine, as children do, and we were born to make manifest the glory of the universe that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And as I'm sure most of you know, that was written by Marianne Williamson, poems called Our Deepest Fear. So the word courage is interesting because it actually comes from the Latin word for heart, core, and then cœur in French. So it means heartfelt. In other words, what's true for us behind our own fears and doubts and concerns about what others might think. Now, it's also a word that I think can come with quite a lot of unhelpful baggage. So it can imply crashing on alone to be some kind of conquering hero. And it can also suggest carrying on regardless, ignoring feedback from our own feelings and leading to us making a martyr of ourselves. But true courage is not about fostering a savior complex. It's simply doing what is next with no attachment either to a particular outcome or indeed how it makes us look or feel. Now, for women of my generation, putting your head up above the parapet was regarded as rather unladylike. And so I can still find, speaking up or acting authentically, provoking some old, habitual self-doubts or fears of being judged and condemned. But actually courage is really safe because it's grounded in who we truly are. And it's just about being curious about what are our quiet prompts from that universal intelligent energy. And we may well look around at what other people are up to for ideas or possibilities, but we're not looking for what looks impressive or what's important for us to copy, because our nudges are unique to each of us, drawing on our own kaleidoscope of experience and skills and interests. And the universe never asks us to do anything that we're not capable of. So all that we have to do in response to a nudge or a prompt is just take the next step. and then, you know, see where you've got to, have a look around, make any adjustments, and then take the next step. And then we can trust the guidance at each stage. Obviously, never quite sure where it's going to end up. So it feels to me like following a GPS that somebody else has programmed in the dark. So you just take the next step, not knowing where you're going to end up. And also sometimes we might realize that we're being prompted to stop doing something that has been a normal part of our lives, not really knowing why necessarily, because it's only when we make the space that we notice the new opportunity to do something that feels more authentic. I recently read a book called The Way of the Fearless Writer, and as part of her research, the author Beth Kempton sent a questionnaire out to hundreds of published writers because she wanted to find out more about, you know, the whole process of writing. And one of her questions was whether people experienced self-doubt when they were writing their book. Now, I might have expected the percentage who said yes to that to be quite high, but I must admit I was really surprised to discover that the actual percentage was 100%. So, you know, we all have, you know, and I'm sure it's not just about reading books, writing books. I mean, you know, obviously it would apply to, you know, almost anything that's new, different, outside our usual comfort zone. And so, yeah, we all have these habitual feelings of vulnerability or doubt or threat that may well float in or out. But, you know, we can just notice them and see them for what they are. They're just like old weather patterns swirling around. You know, we can let them melt away in the background because they've got nothing to do with that shaft of light that is now illuminating our blue sky. So we do all have, you know, despite all of that, the clarity and the well-being we need to act, and far more resilience than we tend to give ourselves credit for. And courage is also grounded in working with other people. So we use the word encourage to inspire others to let their light shine despite whatever baggage they may have. And supporting other people is not about pretending that we're invincible. It's about being open and sharing our moments of uncertainty and vulnerability, because, you know, we are all human. We all get caught up in distracting ourselves from what our quiet inner voice is saying, or cloaking ourselves in a false modesty, pretending that we're not up to it, not today, not now, if ever. I learnt my lesson one damp November morning about 4 or 5, no, before lockdown, 5, 6 years ago. I woke up early with an idea fizzing around in my head. And I knew that acting on it would be a lot of work and would mean stepping quite a long way outside my comfort zone. So I pulled the duvet back over my head. But deep down, I knew that here was the next step that I was being asked by the universe to take. So I did get out of bed. I found some flip chart paper, and still in my outdress, I sat on the bedroom floor and drew a mind map. Later that day, I bumped into an old friend, and I dared to let her in on what it was that I had on my mind. And she loved it and helped me clarify my thoughts a bit. Then at a transition town meeting a couple of days later, I mentioned the outline of my plan. And there and then, 3 people volunteered to help me. And so a large community festival was born. It was a bonkers amount of work, but it was never a struggle. I only occasionally got caught up in the why me and I'm not good enough to pull this off type thinking, because various serendipitous events convinced me that this was an event that wanted to happen. it felt as if I'd somehow been picked to bring it into being, because at that juncture I happened to have some time, I happened to have a few useful contacts and some relevant experience. So I did what I could to the best of my ability, but otherwise it was none of my business. It just flowed. It just kind of happened. And it was a great success. In the end, it involved 600 people and 20 organizations, and some of the ramifications are still rippling through the community today. So there is something rather exhilarating about holding the face to do what's ours to do, despite all the usual noise in our heads, and to keeping going, despite not knowing where we're going to end up. And acting on our nudges provides us with feedback that's actually self-reinforcing. Kim describes courage as being a muscle that strengthens with exercise, but to me that's not so much of the boring gym treadmill kind of slogging on, but more the kind of marching on up a hill type of exercise that might be steep and slippery at times, but it's worth it for the joy of a new view, or a different perspective from the top, as well as welcoming who's joined in with us and curious with where the path is going to take us next. So Kim, I think you've got another little piece to add on at the about on the same theme.
Yes, I have. I wanted to, just before that though, if it's okay, introduce you to an idea which won't be new to you, although it might be new in this form. We've talked a lot throughout this program about being home or being away, being grounded or being kind of in our noise, in the noise of our head. And in terms of the themes tonight, so courage, facing uncertainty, telling your truth, I find this, hold on, let me just call it up, really useful. And it speaks to what Erica was just saying about how we change over time as we kind of keep going up that hill. So I've called it here the window of resilience. So you can see you've got a kind of a yellow section in the middle, which you could call home, grounded, flexible, open, curious, present, compassionate, loving. And then you've got two other boxes. One is called by psychologists hyperarousal, and one is hypoarousal. And all of us go up and down. We go up and down in all of those boxes. So sometimes we're in hyper, sometimes we're in hypo. And it seems to me that one of the real assets we can have as human beings is the ability to stretch that yellow. So if you look, these ups and downs are exactly the same in this slide, but the whole yellow has shifted. So it's bigger, you're bigger. And it allows you to continue to navigate even through the, whatever's happening to you. It doesn't mean you never go into these other two. And there's nothing wrong with those either. I'm not for a minute suggesting any of those feelings are wrong. But I've certainly found myself over the last few years through all sorts of programs like these, through exploring the inside out understanding, all sorts of inner work and activities and learning from other people, my yellow bit has definitely expanded. So, for example, you know, one of the things I do most mornings is read the latest meta-crisis news from all over the world. I get a very strong cup of coffee, and because I want to know what's going on. It's not doom scrolling for me. I'm just curious, and I noticed that, you know, a few years ago when I started doing that, it would often send me into a complete freak out. And it doesn't anymore. It really doesn't. It's not that I'm not feeling it. I still feel things as intensely, but it doesn't kind of whack me into one of those other two boxes anymore. And I think that's as I say, a capability that I think we all have the potential for, and is going to be increasingly important, I think, as time goes on. So we're going to put you into an exercise in a moment, but before that, have any of you come across the Hopi elders prophecy? Stick your hand up if you have. Yeah, Michael. Yeah. Actually, just before that, anybody unmute yourself. What do you think of that window of resilience idea, and how does it land with you? And yeah, does it make sense? Do you find that a useful way to think about things or not?
I think the inside out understanding has really allowed me to sit much more in the yellow bit.
Yeah.
Like you're describing, less extremes of emotion certainly, and sort of passivity or inactivity. Yeah, much more just, yeah, there's a steadiness in me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
And it's like you can trust yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, much more. Yeah. Anybody else? Thank you, Michael. Yes.
I was just going to say it's very similar to we use the window of tolerance with children that I work with that struggle with regulating their emotions, and so we're looking all the time to widen their window of tolerance, what they can manage.
Yeah. And that's really good. But I think it's, you know, it's a really good thing to think about for ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Jan. Okay, so the Hopi prophecy. So this was shared with the world in the year 2000, actually, by the Hopi elders. And again, a bit like Erica did before, I want you to listen as though this is speaking to you. I find it, every time I look at it or read it or say it to myself, I find it nourishing and beautiful, and it kind of, for me, sums up a lot of the things we've been talking about here together. So you might want to close your eyes even and listen like this very wise Indigenous leader is speaking to you. You have been telling people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell the people that this is the hour. And there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relation? Where is your water? Know your garden. It is time to speak your truth. Create your community. Be good to each other. And do not look outside yourself for your leader. And then he clasped his hands together, smiled and said, this could be a good time. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel that they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know that the river has its destination. We must now let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, keeping our eyes open and our heads above the water. And then see who is in there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey come to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration, because we are the ones we've been waiting for. Very good. So how does that land with you? And any parts of that that spoke to you especially? Yeah, James.
I love that. That was so, that just articulated, I feel the just the paradigm that we're in, and so poetically as well. And then the little surprise at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise, but
Yeah. And I meet, I guess you do too, I meet so many people who are clinging, you know, with their fingernails to the edge of the river through understandable fear. But actually to swim joyfully into the river and look around and see who's in there with you, because there are so many. And I think another part, you know, the facing uncertainty part, what I think the inside out understanding, one of the things it can teach us is that the certainty we thought we had about circumstances and events was only ever an illusion anyway. So it's about being really comfortable with not knowing, with the maplessness. And as Erica says, just waiting for the next nudge and following that, having the trust and faith in yourself and in the infinite intelligence. And staying in the yellow bit as often as you can. Yeah. Anything else about the Hopi prophecy? Yeah, Michael.
The last line, "we are the ones we've been waiting for," seems to stand in very sharp contrast to what appears to be an increasing abdication of personal responsibility towards increasingly far right and strong leaders, in inverted commas. So to me, that kind of is a real contrast between what appears to be happening in the world in that way and what's really required is to look inside and to, you know, to see our own leadership.
Yeah.
But that's not what appears to be happening in the world.
Well, no, and we all know, you all know how many elections there are this year all around the world. And I read a statistic earlier today that, and it's shifted quite a lot very quickly. Something like, I think it's 70% plus of countries now around the world are governed by what you could define as authoritarian. More than 70%. Which is typically what happens when people are afraid. They look for strong leaders. Yeah. Yeah. So part of this whole program is encouraging you to, if it feels right and if it's in line with your values, to push off from the edge of the river. And that's really what finding what yours to do is all about. but very definitely not doing it on your own. So we've got a couple of powerful questions to ask. Erica, shall we, and Liz, if you get ready to put people into smaller groups, let's have a longish exercise exploring those. Erica.
So the questions are, what gets in the way of you, well, knowing or telling what's true for you? What gets in the way of you really knowing what matters in terms of what's of your nudge, your inclination? My hunch is that many of us kind of know, but we just look in the opposite direction, or we obscure it, or we duck it in some way or another. And what would help you to go and do what's yours to do? In other words, to push off from the edge of the river and get into the flow. So 2 questions: what gets in the way of you telling your truth, and what would help you to let go and do it? So yes, Liz, if we could have groups of sort of 3s and 4s for that.
Excellent. So a longish breakout discussion. I hope you found that useful. And I'd love to hear some of the highlights of it. So in terms of, let's start with what gets in the way for you. So Gemma, the group you were in, Gemma, James and Joanne, doesn't have to be you, Gemma, any of the 3 of you. What, any themes you noticed?
James, do you want to? Joanne? Would you
Yeah,
like?
sure. It was, I think the main theme was kind of accepting our own authority and trusting that our authentic voice is as valid as anything else in the room. You know, it's easy to be a little bit overwhelmed by other people's apparent intelligence or where they're coming from and their perceptions, or in my case, I get told I was eccentric and I just didn't understand what people were talking about. So you just so yeah, I think it was about, you know, going, well, no, I'm all right, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, very good. And same group, what would help you, you think? I mean, obviously that, but anything else that would support you in pushing off of the banks of the river more and finding your natural courage, which we all have when we're home.
Yeah, I think we talked about being in that middle band that you just talked about, Kimberly. I think once we're there, then it becomes much easier to speak our truth. I think that's what I got from you, Joanne. And I also just asking questions rather than feeling that you have to tell people, having curiosity. And then Gemma, you were just articulating your what's true for you in terms of what helps you speak your truth, and it was discovery. And you'll have to complete the sentence for me, Gemma.
I think it's just to allow yourself to be in an uncomfortable space, but to find what brings you comfort in that uncomfortable space. So I think there's this idea of that there's something I've been learning about, which is to do with parts of the brain, and it's basically how do you stay in your alpha brain when you're in those uncomfortable spaces. And being in the alpha brain is where it allows you to really land and settle. Yeah. Or as Kimberly and I spoke about, dancing in the space, dancing in an uncomfortable space, and seeing where that journey and discovery comes.
Yeah. So important, the kind of, the stories that we tell, the narratives we tell, the metaphors we use to describe what's going on, you know. Thank you. So Caroline, Jan and Wendy, what gets in the way and what helps? Anything you can offer the rest of us?
Shall I go to start off with?
Yeah.
For me, what gets in the way is that I because I've done things, I've always kind of done things a bit differently, and everyone sees me as a bit of a, oh, Jan does her stuff over there, she thinks different than everyone else. And so it's really difficult to take anybody else with you, where they say, well, you know, you do your stuff over there, that's fine. We're all of us are over here. So that's kind of what gets in the way, is that not feeling a feeling of being seen as, you know, slightly mad. It's like Joanne said, you know, she's the eccentric one who has all these strange thoughts about things that are going to happen and what's happening in the world. She sees the world so differently than us. You know, like why are we going to listen to her? So it's really difficult then to actually almost engage and be accepted as it's not just one of Jan's stupid ideas all over again.
And I was completely the opposite, as in what gets in the way is, at the moment for me, is wanting more knowledge and not thinking I know enough yet.
About what?
Well, just, I mean, Wendy did a lovely challenge as to whether this is a pattern, and it would, I think, probably be a pattern that I'm always looking for a bit more knowledge before I stick myself out there. So it felt like Jan's out there and sort of and not sure about it, whereas I'm still, you know, still anchored somewhere quietly. And so a bit of both of us would probably be the middle ground.
Yeah. 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 And yeah, I suppose what comes up for me then is the we're not separate, although it can feel like we are. And also that, you know, more information, you know, you would have to live 6 lifetimes to have, you know, that can continue on forever. And it's not, usually in these conversations, it's information is probably the least important part of it anyway. It's about connecting, it's about being curious, about asking questions, as we've said. It's about giving people permission to speak their truth. And having a conversation. And as I've said before, I think on these calls, what is yours to do may not involve the kind of education of everybody around you. It may do, but it may not. And this is why this whole program, finding your quiet, asking yourself those, you know, those deep reflection questions, that inner inquiry, finding the others. But I think sometimes people get overly hung up on having to share with everybody in their life all of their worries and concerns about the meta crisis or whatever. You know, that's not necessarily required unless you've decided that that's what's yours to do, which is then great. But, you know, it might be what's yours to do is to save a particular species or clean up a river or bring up kids in a way that where they really uncover their own resilience. Yeah. So we need everything everywhere all at once. Thank you. Judith, Liz, Michael. Any insights to share?
Shall I speak to that, Liz?
Yeah, go for it.
On the first question, belief that I'm not going to be listened to. Holds, you know, stops me from speaking really, or being true to myself. It's an old belief, and it's really, yeah, just kind of made up, I guess. Yeah. It's made up based on historical fact, but it's still essentially made up. And also, Liz talked about unclear thoughts and confusion, unable to articulate what's really there. And but I think I'm not sure if we agree with this, Liz, but we sort of concluded that even speaking your confusion is in itself being true to yourself. Just that's how you are in this moment. That's what's true. And also just being seen as different by other people. You're kind of a bit of minuses. I think that was said a moment ago. That you're just different, and we don't want different, so we don't speak up. And as regards to the second question, I spoke of an experience I had, which really came from a very, I guess, truly courageous place. My heart was so in it, I had no choice, and I had to express it, and I had to speak it, and something came of it that really surprised me. I wasn't the only one, but I didn't know where it was going to go. I had to speak it. So it's that quality of just really listening to that. And it's always like a rage. It is the rage of the heart. It is the rage of the fire in the heart. A full-on courage. And yeah, Liz talked about opportunities like this, finding the others in conversations that are really open, honest, heartfelt, where you're truly heard. And that helps to push off, let go, and do what, you know, that's the encouragement aspect as well.
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic.
So yeah,
I often use the metaphor of you've all seen a revolving sushi bar, and these old patterns, these old beliefs. I always think of them like stale sushi, just coming round again and again, and it's not nourishing. It's past its best. But you know, there can be a tendency to just keep eating the bloody things over and over again, and we don't have to, because the one thing we can be sure of is that there's always new, fresh sushi coming round. Metaphorically, there's the potential from the great sushi chef in the sky, or whatever you want to like. There's new stuff coming, so it's where you put your attention. You don't have to keep eating the old horrible stuff. Very good. Anything else anybody wants to say about courage or facing uncertainty or truth telling? Or yeah, James.
Something occurred to me, which was actually something that Joanne sparked, which was having a conversation with herself. Is that how you put it, Joanne? Sometimes you just need to, and that sparked something for me, because working with my sub-personalities, doing parts work, I find it so true that I've got like a manager part or a critic who's, don't do that, it's going to make you look stupid, or a wounded part, which is just feeling got at. Just to have a conversation with myself with those parts, and welcome them and say, look, I'll hold your hand, we'll step into this zone of discomfort and dance in that uncomfortable space, as Gemma and you put it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, very good. So, a little treat for you now. I think it's a treat. You all know Maya Angelou, yeah? I think we'd agree, somebody with fantastic authenticity and courage. This is really old now, but absolutely fabulous. Enjoy this, and then we'll just go into a checkout afterwards.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance as if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling and bearing in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, wow. There I go.
Oh, wonderful. So I hope you take away tonight a little bit of Maya Angelou in you, your own version of that. Over to you, Erica.
Well, really just needed to just check out and hear from each of you where you're at, anything that particular that you're taking away from tonight or thinking about. So I'll take you in the order in which you're appearing now on my screen. So I'll start with you, Wendy.
I think I'm further along than I thought I was, having talked to the people, Caroline and Jan, tonight. Quite interesting. So I'm going away feeling good. Thank you. Thank you, Jan and Caroline and everyone else.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Liz.
I scribbled down what Joanne said, actually, my authentic voice is as valid as any others in the room. And I really, really like that. So thank you. It's my little nugget.
Brilliant. Thank you. Jan?
I just really want to say that I'm kind of here now. I wasn't really here at the beginning. So I'm present. And I'd like to say that I'm just feeling a little inspired by hearing what Wendy's doing.
Great. Thank you. Judith?
I don't feel as tired as when I first arrived, and I do want to show this because I've actually finished painting it now.
It's
That's
lovely. Thank
the
you.
final version.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Judith. Gemma?
Yeah, feeling more energized as well, and I suppose have a bit more of that kind of spark in the stomach feeling, that something that there's something about connection in that, what Joanne, James and I spoke about, but also hearing from others what they shared. There was lots of things that resonated. And then obviously having the wonderful Maya Angelou at the end to send another spark into the inner being always feels wonderful. So very appreciative.
Lovely. Thank you. I like spark in the stomach. That's a great description. Thank you. Joanne?
I have a bit of sort of delicious confusion going on, which feels like one of those, something that's multi-layered. I was really struck, Erica, when you were talking about the project that came through you and you said, and it wasn't about me. That really resonated because I experienced that with painting a lot. Anyway, but there's also, it is about us because we're going to our authentic selves. But so it's just kind of these two things which I can feel completely sit together and have an energy. So I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I can feel it.
Wonderful. Well, we can feel it too, so that's all that matters. Thank you very much indeed, Joanne. Michael?
Yes, like previous weeks, I too also am feeling much more energized after this time together. I think I've seen something today that's been really important. When I first arrived on this course, so 4 weeks, 4 sessions ago, 5 sessions ago, I can't remember. What is mine to do was a big question. And I really thought, oh God, I'm going to have to really work this one out. And I've discovered today, I think I know I'm already doing what is mine to do. And I've really, I think I've recognized this today. And I also know this, what is mine to do that feels right, is that life is reflecting back to me the truth of that. You know, it's not in my control, but it's coming back to me in ways that I wasn't expecting, and is an affirmation that there's, yeah, I kind of feel I'm doing what is mine to do, and that feels really, yeah, that feels really good. There's a simplicity about it that I haven't got to make it complicated. I haven't got to make something huge, and you know that I've got to put massive amounts of effort into. But it's come from a real sense of meaning for me initially, and it's clearly having meaning for others, and that feels really good.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's something we haven't talked about very much, but which you just have touched on, which is about realizing that you're already doing it, and then that no, this is not some grand different direction. It's just affirming what you're already doing and giving it a bit more oomph and energy, which is fabulous. Thank you very much. James?
I can't really put my finger on any one thing tonight which has resonated. It's all been resonating one after the other. So it's just, and people's contributions just been beautiful. So really grateful for that. Yeah, so I feel like I'm coming out of this meeting with more energy, more what's the word? Encouragement. So thank you.
Fabulous. Caroline.
Yeah, I think I'm just struck by how inspired I'm finding listening to everyone. And similar as Jan said, it was really quite inspiring listening to Wendy and the courageous conversations that that she's having. In a sense, I certainly want to look up the Hopi prophecy and read that again. I feel I want to go and sit in a quiet, darkened room and just be.
There's so much in it. I'll send it round after the call.
Lovely, thank you. Yeah, that's all from me.
Lovely, thank you very much, Caroline. Kim, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I don't think so, except the next session is our final one together, at least in this format. So yeah, be having a think, maybe go back and look at why you joined the program, and do a kind of gap analysis. What haven't you got yet that you wanted to get? And bring that next time, or drop us a line beforehand. Yeah, and if you do have the time and the inclination, like anything that you can do to consolidate all of the different sessions that we've explored together, so that it rather than just being a sort of, series of piecemeal conversations, that you can kind of bring it together as a, like when you're doing a jigsaw puzzle, you bring the whole picture together for yourself as a kind of, I know for myself when I'm learning, it's really helpful to go back and revisit. But no, and we may even finish a little bit early, I don't know.
But we might.
Yeah.
Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you too, for all of us.
All right, thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Much love.
Bye.
Bye bye.